The sitting disease, why your body has forgotten how to move. You're listening to Your Space Today, the podcast where we decode fatigue, stress, and burnout so you can rise again. Every Tuesday, we explore the hidden connections between your habits, your health, and your happiness, giving you the tools to take back your energy and your life. Hey there, welcome to Your Space Today. Here's something wild. Right now, as you're listening, you're probably sitting. Maybe in your car on the commute, maybe at your desk, maybe on your couch, scrolling your phone. And here's the kicker. You'll likely sit for over 10 hours today. That's more time than you spend sleeping. Picture Emma. She's 34, works in marketing, drives to work, sits for 9 hours, drives home, and collapses on the couch. Sunday night, she decides, this week will be different. She signs up for a beginner boot camp at the gym. It says beginner, so it should be fine, right? 5 minutes into the warm-up, her heart is pounding so hard she can hear it in her ears. Her face is flushed red. People twice her age are chatting casually while doing the same movements. By day 3, she can barely straighten her legs or lift her arms. 3 attempts over 6 weeks, and Emma quietly cancels her membership. Sound familiar? Here's what Emma doesn't realize, and what might surprise you. Her struggle has nothing to do with willpower or age. It's about biology. Her body has adapted to sitting in ways that make sudden exercise biochemically overwhelming. Today, we're diving into what really happens when you sit for years on end. We'll explore why your first workout feels impossible, why everything hurts, and why that gym membership keeps going to waste. No quick fixes, no magic pills, just the truth about what your body is trying to tell you. So grab your tea, settle in, and let's talk about the hidden epidemic of bodies that have forgotten how to move. Quick disclaimer, this is educational, not medical advice. Always consult your healthcare provider. Let me tell you more about Emma's story, because I'm betting you'll see yourself in it. Emma would describe herself as basically healthy, no major medical issues, just tired. Most days she drives to work, sits at her desk for 9 hours with quick breaks for coffee and lunch, then drives home to collapse on the couch with her phone and something easy for dinner. By evening, scrolling feels like the only thing her body can handle. She's watched enough Instagram fitness accounts to know she should be moving more. Monday evening arrives, that beginner boot camp. The instructor calls it a gentle warm-up. 5 minutes in, Emma's heart is pounding. A wave of dizziness makes her step to the side. She finishes the class, barely, tells herself it will get easier, and drives home feeling oddly shaky. The next day brings stiffness. By day 3, every muscle screams. She skips Wednesday's class and promises herself she'll go back next Monday when she's recovered. What Emma doesn't realize is that her body isn't just out of shape. It has fundamentally reorganized itself at the cellular level. And I'm not being dramatic. This is actual biology. Here's what most people don't understand. During months or years of sitting, your muscles don't just get weak, they shrink and lose power-generating fibers. Your heart becomes efficient at rest, but struggles when asked to perform. The tiny energy factories inside your cells, mitochondria, decrease in number and efficiency. Even your nervous system forgets movement patterns it once knew. Industry data shows that about half of new gym members stop attending within the first 6 months, even though they keep paying. These aren't people who lack motivation. Their bodies are responding exactly as biology predicts when suddenly asked to do something they haven't been prepared for. Let me share something fascinating that changed how I think about this. In the classic Dallas bed rest study, researchers asked healthy young men in their 20s to stay in bed for 3 weeks straight. No walking, no standing, just lying down. When they measured cardiovascular fitness afterward, the decline was staggering. Here's what blew my mind. 3 weeks of bed rest in their 20s caused a larger reduction in aerobic capacity than the 30 years of aging that followed. Let that sink in for a second. Now, Emma hasn't been on bed rest, but she has spent years sitting for 9+ hours daily. Her cardiovascular system has downshifted. Her muscles have atrophied. Her body is running on different hardware than it was designed to use. When she suddenly demands peak performance in a beginner class, her system responds with alarm signals, racing heart, dizziness, overwhelming fatigue. Think of a car that's been sitting in a garage for years. You wouldn't expect to turn the key and immediately race it. The battery's dead, the fluids have thickened, the engine needs slow, careful warming. Your body is the same. The average adult now sits for over 10 hours per day. This isn't a moral failing, it's the architecture of modern life. Desk jobs, long commutes, screen-based entertainment. Our world is designed for stillness. But your body adapted brilliantly to sitting. Now that adaptation has consequences you can't willpower your way through. Now here's where it gets really interesting. Let me introduce you to something I call the 4 pillars framework. It's my attempt to synthesize the research into a coherent model that makes hidden connections visible and understandable. Just so we're clear, this framework is for educational use only. It's not a diagnostic or clinical tool. Your well-being rests on 4 foundation pillars: fuel, movement, mind, and rhythm. When you're chronically sedentary, it doesn't just affect one area. It creates a cascade where each falling pillar pulls the others down with it. Let me show you what I mean. First pillar, movement. This is your physical foundation and your energy system, and here's where things get cellular. Inside every cell are tiny structures called mitochondria. Think of them as power plants that convert food into ATP, the usable energy currency your cells run on. When you move regularly, your body builds more mitochondria and keeps them efficient. When you sit for months or years, your body does the opposite. It shuts down power plants you're not using. Research on people with long-standing sedentary patterns shows that mitochondrial density and ATP production capacity can drop substantially. In one study of inactive adults with long-standing type 2 diabetes, a year of supervised exercise training increased skeletal muscle ATP production capacity by about 21%, along with higher expression of genes involved in energy metabolism. While this study focused on people with diabetes, it shows how inactivity and training can alter mitochondrial function. Physically active individuals tend to show substantially higher skeletal muscle mitochondrial capacity than sedentary peers. For Emma, this means her cells are running on fewer, less efficient power plants. Even small tasks, walking upstairs, carrying groceries, feel exhausting because her muscles can't generate enough ATP to meet demand. Her body switches to less efficient pathways earlier, producing metabolic byproducts that add to that heavy, drained feeling. You're not lazy. Your cellular power grid is running on backup generators. Second pillar, rhythm. This is your daily habits and circadian health. Your brain has a 24-hour master clock that uses 3 main signals to stay synchronized: light, food, and movement. When you move regularly, especially in the morning, you're telling your body, "This is daytime, we're awake and active." This helps set your circadian rhythm, which then regulates cortisol, melatonin, and dozens of other processes. Studies show that exercise modulates these rhythms. Morning physical activity tends to lower early-day cortisol and improve nighttime sleep quality. In contrast, prolonged sitting, especially with irregular sleep and late-night screen time, disrupts these patterns. Analyses in college students suggest that replacing small amounts of sedentary time, about 30 minutes, with moderate activity is linked to better sleep ratings. Emma spends her days sitting in artificial light, then comes home and sits more. Her body's clock loses a clear day-night signal. Her cortisol, which should peak in the morning and drop at night, may stay elevated or flatten out. She feels wired and tired at the same time, can't fall asleep easily, and wakes up unrested. This makes her more exhausted, which makes movement feel even more impossible. Movement isn't just exercise. It's a time signal your body desperately needs to know what part of the day it's in. Third pillar, mind. Your mental and emotional health. Sedentary behavior isn't just doing nothing. It actively correlates with worse mental health. In a nationally representative sample of U.S. adults, sedentary time over 600 minutes per day, 10 hours, was linked to significantly higher odds of depressive symptoms, even after adjustments. On the flip side, physical activity, even modest amounts, reduces depressive symptoms across multiple studies. Here's why. Exercise increases production of BDNF, a protein that acts like fertilizer for brain connections. It supports the growth of new neurons, strengthens existing pathways, and helps regulate mood. In people with depression studied in clinical trials, different types of movement, aerobic exercise, resistance training, even yoga, all appear to raise BDNF and improve mental health markers. For Emma, her sedentary pattern contributes to mental fog, low motivation, and a creeping sense that she can't do anything right. She tells herself she should exercise, but her brain chemistry is working against her. Low BDNF, disrupted sleep, and chronic low energy create a negative loop. She feels bad, so she doesn't move, which makes her feel worse. That heavy, unmotivated feeling isn't weakness. It's biology responding to a body that has stopped sending the movement signals it needs. Fourth pillar, fuel. This is your nutrition and metabolism. When you're physically active, your muscles take up glucose from your bloodstream efficiently. When you sit for hours, that system becomes sluggish. Studies show that even people without diabetes can develop reduced insulin sensitivity during prolonged sedentary periods. This pattern contributes to blood sugar instability, inflammation, and fat accumulation, especially around the abdomen. There's another, subtler shift. Research shows that sedentary behavior correlates with poorer diet quality. More sitting is linked to lower fruit and vegetable intake and higher intake of ultra-processed foods, sugar-sweetened drinks, and discretionary snacks. Some research suggests that physical activity can influence how rewarding high-energy foods feel. Sedentary patterns tend to cluster with higher intake of energy-dense, low-quality foods. For Emma, this means her sedentary days prime her to reach for chips, cookies, and takeout in the evening. It's not lack of discipline. Her brain's reward system may be tilted toward quick energy foods when her body isn't moving. Those foods create blood sugar swings that leave her more tired and craving more sugar. The spiral deepens. When your body isn't moving, your brain starts treating fast carbs like survival fuel. You're not undisciplined. You're biochemically primed to crave exactly what makes you feel worse. Let me trace the feedback loop Emma's caught in. This is where everything connects. Step 1. Prolonged sitting leads to mitochondrial downgrade, less ATP, and chronic fatigue. That's the movement pillar falling. Step 2. No movement signal disrupts circadian rhythm, causes poor sleep, and even less energy. Rhythm pillar down. Step 3. Poor sleep plus low energy reduces BDNF, worsens mood, lowers motivation, and fuels more negative self-talk. Mind pillar collapsing. Step 4. Feeling terrible while sedentary makes your brain crave quick energy foods, driving blood sugar swings, more inflammation, and weight gain. Fuel pillar failing. Step 5. Chronic stiffness plus a painful first workout leads to avoidance, shame, and maybe this isn't the right time. Back to the movement pillar. This is not a character flaw. It's a self-reinforcing biological system. Each pillar supports the others when healthy, but when one falls, it destabilizes the rest. The good news, and this is crucial, is that the spiral can work in both directions. Small improvements in one pillar create ripple effects across the others. But you have to start at a level your current biology can actually handle. Now let's talk about why Emma's beginner class felt like torture, and why it's not her fault. When Emma walked into that boot camp, her body was operating on fundamentally different hardware than the instructor assumed. The class was designed for people who are somewhat active already, people whose mitochondria are functioning, whose cardiovascular systems respond predictably, whose muscles remember basic movement patterns. Emma's body, after years of sitting, was working with fewer, less efficient mitochondria. She ran out of ATP faster and switched to anaerobic metabolism sooner, creating that burning, exhausted sensation. Her cardiovascular system had downshifted for efficiency at rest, struggling to deliver oxygen when suddenly asked to perform. Her muscles had shortened and weakened from disuse, making even simple movements mechanically harder. Her nervous system had deprioritized movement coordination, so exercises that look effortless require intense mental and physical effort. High-intensity exercise in people who aren't accustomed to it can trigger a marked inflammatory response, with increases in cytokines such as IL-6. In deconditioned individuals, this response may feel more like being acutely unwell than healthy exertion. Emma wasn't out of shape. She was biochemically unprepared. No amount of willpower changes mitochondrial density or cardiovascular adaptation overnight. Let's talk about the pain that lasted 3 days, because that's not normal, and understanding why helps. The soreness Emma experienced, delayed onset muscle soreness, or DOMS, is well studied. It peaks 24 to 72 hours after unfamiliar or eccentric exercise and comes from microscopic damage to muscle fibers, localized inflammation, and temporary sensitization of pain nerves. Here's what happens. When untrained muscles are suddenly loaded with eccentric contractions, lengthening under tension, like lowering a squat, they develop tiny tears. Your body responds by releasing inflammatory mediators and upregulating proteins like NGF and GDNF that make pain receptors more sensitive. This is part of the repair process. Your body's fixing damage and learning to handle that stress better next time. In someone who exercises regularly, this response is mild and resolves quickly. In someone who's been sedentary for years, it's amplified. Why? Muscles have less capillary density, fewer tiny blood vessels, so nutrient delivery and waste removal are slower. Mitochondrial capacity is lower, so tissues rely more on pathways that produce inflammatory byproducts. The relative stimulus is much larger. What a conditioned person experiences as mild challenge is interpreted by a deconditioned system as major stress. The result? Emma's body had microscopic muscle tears, localized inflammation, and pain nerves that stayed turned up for days. Not because she did anything wrong, but because her system was responding to a mismatch between what was demanded and what it was prepared for. You don't have low pain tolerance. You have untrained muscles being asked to do things they're not ready for, and your body is screaming, "Slow down." Beyond the acute soreness from that first workout, Emma's been living with chronic discomfort. Stiff neck, achy lower back, tight hips, knees that hurt on stairs. This isn't separate from her sedentary pattern. It's a direct result of it. Research shows clear associations between prolonged sitting and musculoskeletal pain, particularly in the neck, shoulders, and lower back. One mechanism is simple physics. Static postures held for hours create sustained tension in certain muscles, hip flexors, upper traps, chest muscles, while others weaken from disuse, like glutes, deep core stabilizers, and mid-back muscles. Over time, this creates imbalances that pull joints out of optimal alignment and generate pain. A lab study demonstrated this beautifully. 4.5 hours of sitting increased lumbar muscle stiffness measurably. But regular small contractions, even electrically induced ones, prevented this increase. Translation? Muscles that stay still for hours literally stiffen and gel in place. Tiny, frequent movements keep them pliable. There's also the joint nutrition problem. Cartilage in your knees, hips, and spine doesn't have direct blood supply. It's nourished by synovial fluid that moves through the joint during movement. When you sit for 10 hours a day, that fluid circulation slows. Over time, this may contribute to cartilage wear and joint problems, especially with other risk factors like age, prior injury, or excess body weight. For Emma, her body aches not because she's getting old, but because she's been holding the same positions for years. Her tissues have adapted to stillness. Now movement feels like a threat rather than relief. Your joints aren't breaking down from age. They're starving from stillness. Cartilage needs movement the way lungs need air. Here's what I want you to understand. The fitness industry sells transformation. 30-day challenges, get fit in 12 weeks, beginner workouts that anyone can do. These programs are typically designed for people who are somewhat active already and just need structure or intensity. They're not designed for people whose bodies have fundamentally reorganized around stillness. When Emma tries to jump from 10 hours of daily sitting into a high-intensity class, she's asking her body to build mitochondria overnight. That takes weeks to months of consistent, progressive stimulus. Adapt her cardiovascular system immediately takes weeks of gradual load increases. Relearn movement patterns her nervous system has deprioritized takes repetition and time. Override years of metabolic, hormonal, and neurological adaptation to inactivity. It's like asking someone to renovate an abandoned house by painting the front door. The foundation's cracked, the wiring's shot, the plumbing's frozen. But we're surprised when a coat of paint doesn't fix it. The solution isn't a better program or more motivation. It's understanding that your body needs time to remember how to move efficiently before you can ask it to move intensely. Many people need a strategy that matches where their biology actually is right now, more than they need more willpower. So here's what I want you to do. Before you even think about joining another gym or starting another program, become a detective of your own movement patterns. Most people drastically overestimate how much they move and underestimate the cumulative impact of their sedentary habits. For the next 14 days, track your actual movement reality. This isn't about judgment or shame. It's about gathering data that will help you make informed decisions about where to start. Track total hours spent sitting each day. Work, commute, evening. Minutes spent walking, even short distances. Flights of stairs climbed. Time spent standing versus sitting. Energy levels throughout the day. Rate 1 to 10 at morning, midday, evening. Physical discomfort or stiffness patterns. Neck, back, knees. Food choices, especially cravings for sugar or ultra-processed foods. Sleep quality and how rested you feel upon waking. You can download our free 14-day movement diary from the website. This diary is for self-observation only and is not a diagnostic tool. In just 2 weeks, patterns may emerge, patterns that reveal which areas might benefit from attention and where small changes could have meaningful impact. This detective work will reveal your personal patterns, the small, seemingly innocent habits that may be keeping you stuck. Only with this honest assessment can you begin to make changes that might actually stick. Yes, it sounds like extra work. Yes, it's easier to just buy a gym membership and hope for the best. But if quick fixes worked, you wouldn't be listening to this episode. The work you put into identifying your baseline is rarely wasted. It's often the first step toward lasting change. By the end of these 14 days, you'll have something most people never possess: a clear picture of your own movement patterns. For some, it'll be 11 hours of daily sitting. For others, chronic stiffness that makes even gentle movement painful. For many, it'll be a combination that uniquely fits their life, just as Emma's pattern is uniquely hers. This episode ends with a promise, not a prescription. Research shows that people who openly acknowledge their current limitations, not as character flaws, but as biological realities, are significantly more likely to build sustainable new habits than those who rely on motivation alone. Motivation burns out. Small, consistent discipline, even 5 minutes a day, can help rebuild systems. I know we covered a lot today. If you're feeling a little overwhelmed right now, that's completely normal. Understanding what's been happening to your body can be both empowering and sobering. But here's what gives me hope. You're here, listening to this. That means you're already taking the first step toward change. You're choosing to understand rather than just push through. That's powerful. This episode ends with an invitation. Stop blaming yourself for failures that were actually predictable responses to a biological mismatch. Get curious. Observe without judgment. Because the first step out of chronic inactivity is seeing the pattern clearly enough that change becomes possible. In the next installment, we'll explore research-backed strategies for gentle movement progression. Practical changes across the 4 pillars that respect where your biology actually is and build from there. We'll show you approaches that may help break the spiral without triggering the failure cycle that Emma, and millions like her, have experienced. For now, the invitation is simple and powerful. Stop guessing. Start knowing. Before trying to fix anything, get curious about what's really happening in your days. If you found value in today's episode, I'd really appreciate it if you'd share it with friends or family who might be struggling with similar issues. Sometimes understanding that we're not alone in this struggle and that there are real, science-based explanations for what we're experiencing, that knowledge alone can be incredibly empowering. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. I'll see you next Tuesday with the next episode in this series, where we'll dive deeper into one of these 4 pillars. Until then, take care of yourself. You deserve it. Your Space Today is published every Tuesday at 6 p.m. For detailed information, disclaimers, scientific references, visit the links below this podcast. This podcast is for educational purposes only and does not constitute medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always consult with your healthcare provider regarding any health concerns